Hi everyone, good afternoon. Once again, this is Waris Karim with a couple of problems from chapter 4 of Garrison textbook. So you know chapter 4 means process costing. In this video, I'm going to discuss two exercises and one problem. The exercises that I have is are 4, 8, and 12. And then the problem I have is 415. All right, so let's go over the story of 4.8. 4.8 is about Helix Corporation. Let me tell you what happened there. All right, here is Helix Corporation data. They use the weighted average method in their process costing system. They started the month of May with 5,000 units. Remember, beginning inventory or beginning work in process inventory was 5,000 units, and those 5,000 were 100% complete as regards materials and only 40% complete as regards conversion, labor, and overhead. Then they added another 180,000 units, started into production during the month, 180,000 units. So you start with 5,000, then you add 180,000 units. So you're going to have a total of 185,000 units to account for. And then how do you account for? You retain 10,000 units in your closing inventory, and that means you transfer to the next department or to finished goods inventory the remaining 175,000 units. So there are no system losses here. You start with 5,000, you add 180,000, and then you transfer 175, and you you retain 10,000 units in your ending inventory of work in process. All right. So the ending inventory, the 10,000 that you have, they are 100% complete as regards materials and only 30% complete as regards labor and overhead. All right. So the cost of beginning work in process was $1,500, and the cost of $1,500 as regards materials, and as regards labor and overhead, it was $4,000. So the total cost of beginning inventory was actually $5,500. Then units started into production, I said 180,000, and the cost they added, the total cost added during the month was $54,000 as far as materials are concerned, and as far as conversion is concerned, they've added $352,000 of labor and overhead. So to wrap up, what we have is we began the month with 5,000 units that cost us $1,500 for material and $4,000 for labor. So total cost of beginning inventory was $5,500, and then we added $54,000 worth of materials and $352,000 worth of labor and overhead. So remember that you have to account for all these. You have to account for the beginning $5,500 plus 54,000 plus $352,000 if we go all the way to cost reconciliation report. And then the units that we needed to account for was 5,000 plus 180, so 185, and we have already accounted for it, at least as far as I'm talking. As far as our discussions are concerned, we have seen that we have retained 10,000 units in ending inventory, and that means we transferred out 175,000 units. So that's what we have. And the requirements here are, number one was to calculate the first production department, well, the department that you're talking about, their equivalent units of production for materials and conversion for the month, and the month was May. And then second requirement is compute their cost per equivalent unit for materials and conversion. So the first question is find out the equivalent units, and then compute the cost per equivalent unit. And then number three was compute their cost of ending work in process, and then compute the cost of what's being transferred. So that means the cost that we needed to account for, and we're trying to see how we account for those costs. So this is the highlights of the question. I think it might be useful for us to understand the discussions later. You can see beginning work in process 5,000, ending work in process 10,000, and their degrees of completions. The degrees of completion, 40% of conversion in the beginning inventory and 30% in the ending. Then the costs of beginning inventory, 1,500 and 4,000. Then the costs added, sorry, the units transferred, units started, 180. And then the costs, materials cost added, labor cost added, units transferred out, 175, the materials cost added and labor cost added. All right, so the solution now. The first requirement was that compute their equivalent units. So how, you tell me how many units are there? We had 5,000 units, so bring that 5,000 in, those 5,000 in, and then add the 180,000, so there's 185. Now, as far as materials are concerned, all 185 are completed, complete. So the fact that we have not done anything to the 5,000 that we have inherited from last month doesn't matter. Under weighted average method, it all gets mixed up because we absorb the cost as well. We account for the cost. So we inherit the amount, we inherit the units, and we inherit the cost. We account for that cost too. So you can see there, total is going to be 185 as far as materials are concerned. Why? Because the 5,000 that we have inherited are all complete, 100%, and the 180,000 that we have injected, that we have added, are also complete as far as materials are concerned. So 180 plus 5 is 185. Another way of looking at it, the way the author, the way Garrison wants us to solve is that maybe some of you might find it easier, is that just find out how many units you have transferred out to the next department, which is 175, and they must be complete, because unless they are complete, you would not have transferred them to the next department. So that's 175,000 is taken for granted. That is definitely completed. All right, so that 175 plus, look at your ending inventory, look around, see how many units you have. You have 10,000 units, and check whether these 10,000 are complete as well. And as far as materials are concerned, these 10,000 are also complete. So 175 plus 10 makes it 185. So that's the equivalent units as far as materials are concerned. Now, as far as labor is concerned, labor and overhead is concerned, the 175 that's gone to the next department are also fully complete, because unless they are complete, as far as everything, material, labor, overhead, we would not have transferred them to the next department. So that's 175. And then look around and you find 10,000 and see their degree of completion. Their degree of completion is 30%. Beginning inventory is 40% complete, ending inventory is 30% complete. So 175 plus 3 makes it 178,000 units. Now, you must think about this. That what about the original 5,000 units that was only 40% complete in terms of conversion? So we must have done the remaining 60%. Yes, we have done that remaining 60% and transferred it out to the next department. Then we must have started and finished something. That is the FIFO method. That's in appendix. So we're not going into that for this course, at least as far as exams and other things, tests are concerned. We just follow the weighted average method. And when you follow the weighted average method, forget about the level of completion or the degree of completion of the beginning inventory. Assume that you have completed all of them, and just look at what you are transferring to the next department. So whether you received some partially completed ones or fully completed ones, does not matter. You're transferring 175,000 units to the next department. That's 175 credit goes to you. Then you have 10,000 units around you, and see what's their degree of completion. So this 10,000 is 30% complete. So that's 3,000. So 170 plus 3 makes it 170. So these are the equivalent units. And now, of course, unit cost, total cost divided by those units. So what's the total cost? Let's start with material. Material must be 1,500. So we inherited $1,500 worth of materials. Then we added $54,000 worth of materials. So 1,500 plus 54. Remember, $4,000 of labor and overhead was also inherited, but that's in the conversion column. So focusing on material, we inherited $1,500. we added we added $54,000 worth of materials. So total materials that we need to account for is $55,500, and then just divided by 185. 185 is the answer here. 185 is the equivalent units as far as materials are concerned. So total cost divided by equivalent units gives you 30 cents of materials cost. 30 cents of material cost per unit, per equivalent unit, per completed unit. And then do the same for labor, 4,000 plus how much labor has been induced or injected, and how much overhead has been injected. You can see the labor and overhead is given together here. So all conversions of $4,000 was inherited, plus $352,000 worth of costs have been added in this month, during the month. So that means we need to account for $356,000, and we divide it by our equivalent units of 178, we get $2, just $2 of unit cost of conversion. Remember, so if anyone's interested in the total unit cost, it will be $2.30. All right. Now the remaining requirements 3 and 4 is almost like a cost reconciliation report. You can see it wanted us to tell them what's the cost of ending inventory. So what's there in ending inventory? In ending inventory, we have 10,000 units, which are all complete as far as materials are concerned. So 10,000 times, what's the unit cost of material? Only 30 cents. So 10,000 times 30 cents is $3,000. That's the cost of ending inventory. And then 10,000 multiplied by the degree of completion. Degree of completion was 30%. So that's 3,000 times unit cost of a completed unit was $2 as far as conversion was concerned. So 3,000 times $2 is $6,000. So that's our, you can see, I multiplied 10,000 by 30 cents and 3,000 by $2. And this is our cost of ending inventory, which is 3,000 plus 6,000, makes it 9,000 in total. Now, what's the cost of what's being transferred? So what did you transfer? You transferred 175,000 units. So multiply that by 30 cents and multiply that by $2. And that's your cost of what's being transferred. And just add that to up. So that makes up, this is the cost of work in process, ending work in process. This is the cost of finished goods, what's being transferred to finished goods. So that's how, if we were to do a cost reconciliation report, would have added these two, would have shown that, okay, this is the cost of my ending work in process, and this is the cost of work I transferred to the next department. So that's how I'm accounting for. So add the two, please. $350,000 plus the materials cost. So 402,500, 402,500 plus 9,000. So 411,500. I'm trying to do a cost reconciliation report, just or verbally. So 402 plus 9 is 411. So $411,500 is how we account for. And let's see if that's what we needed to account for. You can go back and find out that that would be 411,500 as well. So see, the beginning inventory is 1,500. So punch in 1,500 in your calculator plus 4,000 plus materials added 54 plus 352. So 352 plus 54 is 406, isn't it? 406 plus 5,500 is 411 and 5. $411,500. So this is what we needed to account for, because we inherited something, plus we added some costs, we added some resources. So we are accountable to the extent of $411,500. And we have accounted for it. How? We have shown that, look, this is the cost of what I transferred to you, my big brother, and this is the cost of what I have at my disposal. All right. So that's for exercise 4.8. Please go home and do it yourselves. Okay, now exercise 4.12 is here. The summary of the question, the highlights is that the company name is Superior Micro Products. Let me tell you what they do. So what do they do? Superior Micro Products uses the weighted average method. We know that. And the assembly department completed its processing of 25,000 units and transferred to the next department. So completed and transferred to the next is 25,000 units, and the cost of beginning work in process inventory and the cost added during the month total is 599,780. This is a smarter problem, I would say slightly of an advanced level problem. They have not given you separate costs of beginning inventory and what we have injected in. They said, okay, this is the total cost that you need to account for. This is the amount that you use in cost reconciliation report. Because see, the language, they say that the cost of beginning work in process inventory, YPI, the cost of beginning, WIPI, and what's being added, and the cost added during the month amounted to $599,780, almost $600,000. And the ending work in process has 3,000 units, which are 80% complete in terms of materials and 60% complete in terms of labor and overhead. So we know how to convert these units into equivalent units. So 3,000, if it's 80% complete in terms of materials, so 3,000 times 0.8 is 2,400 units, and 3,000 times 0.6 is 2,400 units in terms of conversion. And then, unlike most other problems where they ask us to calculate the unit cost of an equivalent unit, here they have actually calculated it for us. So they have other things in mind, so don't be too relaxed. They gave you the cost per unit, the cost per equivalent unit, and they say that it's $12.50 for material and $3.20 for labor and $6.40 for overhead. 12.5 for material, $3.20 for labor, and $6.40 for overhead. Now look at the requirements. Requirement 1 is compute the equivalent units of materials, labor, and overhead in the ending work in process. We already have done it. 3,000 times 0.8, so 2,400 is for material, and 3,000 times 0.8 was, yes, 2,400, and the 3,000 times 0.6 was 1,800 for labor and overhead. So requirement 1 is already done. I'm going to show you soon. And then requirement 2 is compute the cost of ending work in process, materials, labor, and overhead. Why not? We have the equivalent unit cost. So if I have 2,400 units, just multiply it by $12.50, because that's the unit cost of materials for an equivalent unit, for a complete unit. So $12.50 times how many units I have in my ending inventory, equivalent to 2,400. Yes, I have 3,000 physical units, but they're not all complete. They are only 80% complete. Okay, so partially completed. Okay, so 2,400 units multiplied by $12.50 for materials, and the same 2,400 for labor and overhead. They're only 60% complete. So 3,000 times 0.6 was 1,800. So 1,800 times the labor unit cost was $3.20. And this is all given in the question, $3.20, and we'll just multiply the unit cost by our number of units, and we'll do the same for overhead, which is $6.40, the equivalent cost, the equivalent unit cost, $6.40, and we're going to multiply it by 1,800. So that's requirement 2. Let me show you what's in here. So this is what we have. Let's take a moment and see. What we have completed and transferred, 25,000 units. Completed and transferred 25,000, and in here, in ending inventory, we have 3,000. So that's 28,000. All right. And cost to account for, as I already told you, that the cost of beginning in work in process plus what's been added is this, 599,780. And then ending work in process, 3,000, that was 80% complete in terms of materials and 60% complete in terms of conversion. We know that. Okay, so that, and this is also from the question, the cost per equivalent unit. Materials cost is $12.50, labor is $3.20, and overhead is $6.40. All right, so requirements are solved here. The first one I already have, remember, 3,000 times 0.8. 3,000 times 0.8 is 2,400, and 3,000 times 0.6 is 1,800. And then the ending inventory, materials, sorry, the total production. So remember, bring the 25,000 in each category of each cost element, because 25,000 has been transferred to the big brother, to the next department. So 25,000 plus 3,000 times 0.8, which is 24. So 25,000 plus 2,400 is going to be 27.4. Then 25,000 plus 18 is going to be 26.8, and 25,000 plus 18 is also going to be 26.8. So these are the different equivalent units for material, labor, and overhead. So we didn't mix up labor and overhead here because we have different costs. The labor cost per unit, per complete unit, is $3.20, and the overhead cost per complete unit was $6.40. So if you multiply, these units by these unit costs, we're going to find out the cost of what's being transferred and or the cost of what's in here. All right, so that's how you do the rest of 412. You can solve it yourselves. Requirement 3 was compute the cost of units transferred to the next department for materials, labor, and overhead. So I didn't do it here, but I'd like you to do. So how are you going to do it? Tell me. You have these units. These are the completed units, completed and transferred. So multiply these by these unit costs. Okay. For requirement 3, these units. So 27.4 times $12.50, 26.8 times $3.20, and 26.8 times $6.40. That's the cost of what's being transferred. And then the cost of what's in here, what's in ending inventory, is going to be 2,400 times material cost and 1,800 times labor and overhead cost. Oh, sorry. What's being transferred is just 25,000. What's being transferred is not all. Don't multiply it by this. Just 25,000 times $12.50, 25,000 times $3.20, and $25,000 times $6.40. And then what's being transferred is these. I'm sorry. Okay. What's being transferred in this column, 25,000, and what's in our ending inventory at these, 2,400 and 1,800 and 1,800. All right, and these are the unit costs. All right. So let's see. Requirement 3, as I said, compute the cost of the units transferred to the next department, of course, 25,000 times those 3 unit costs, and then prepare a cost reconciliation. Cost reconciliation is what you need to account for and how we account for it. So what you need to account for is your 599, 780 is a single amount, because in that amount they combine the cost of beginning inventory and cost of what is being injected during the month. So 599, 780 is what we need to account for, and 599, 780 is going to be what we are accounting for it. And I bet you can actually do it yourselves. So simply, take the 25,000 and do it in a stroke of your pen. 25,000 times, you can actually add these 3 together for the completed ones. No problem. 25,000 is this same amount for material, labor, and overhead. So times the total of these 3, leave it, keep it there, and then multiply 2,400 by $12.50, and 1,800 by this, and 1,800 by this. Add these 3, and then add the 4 numbers. You'll see the answer. The total is 599,780. All right. So that's exercise 412. Now the final one is problem 415. Okay. Take a look. These are the highlights of problem 415. Okay, so let's go over, or try to go over at least, over the story. Well, I have got the story. It's about Sunspot Beverages of Fiji. A great place, very beautiful island nation in the Pacific, near my other home country, New Zealand. So Sunspot Beverages, they use the weighted average method. We know they make blended tropical fruit drinks in 2 stages. Okay, whatever they do, we don't care. we care about the accounting part of it. Of course, you need to understand that the more you understand the story, the better you are prepared to solve the problem. But I'm just trying to save your time and not make you too bored. So the following information pertains to the operations of the blending department for the month of June. All right. So see, in every problem, watch out for the beginning units and then how many units we have added and the degrees of completion of what we received and what we are stuck with, what we now have. So our beginning work in process was 20,000 units. That was 100% complete in terms of materials and only 75% complete in terms of labor and overhead. Remember, 20,000 times 75% is how much? 15,000. So that's going to be equivalent units for conversion, and 20,000 times 100%, which is 20,000, is going to be equivalent units for materials. And then we started into production 180,000 units. So physically, 20,000 plus 180, a total of 200,000 units, 200,000 physical units of like bottles of drink. And then we completed and transferred transferred out is 160,000 units. So 160,000 have been transferred onto the next department. And that means how many physical units are left? 40,000, because we have to account for all the units that we began with and what we injected during the period. So that was 200,000 because we started with 20,000 and we added 180,000. So that's 200. And now we have transferred out 160,000 and we have 40,000. Well, the 40,000 that we have are 100% complete in terms of materials and only 25% complete in terms of conversion. All right. And the work in process, the cost of beginning work in process was 25.2 for materials and 24.8 for conversion. Costs added during the period is 334.8 and 338.7 for materials and conversion respectively. So think of the cost reconciliation report. What you need to account for is the total cost, materials and conversion, the total cost of beginning work in process, plus total cost that you have added, all the resources that you have added. So that would be the total of these four numbers, 25.2, 24.8, 334.8, and 238.7. So add all these four numbers. That is what you need to account for. And then how you account for it is just show that, yeah, look, this is the cost of the 160,000 units that I have transferred out. This is the cost. You'll have, if you have separate material and conversion cost, you just multiply 160,000 with your unit cost of material per equivalent unit and unit cost of conversion per equivalent unit. So 160,000 multiplied by the two of them. And then the 40,000 would be multiplied by what's in there. So 40,000 would be the same unit cost because as far as materials are concerned, they're also fully ready. But as far as labor and overhead are concerned, they are not. So 40,000 times 0.25 is 10,000 and 10,000 will be multiplied by the unit cost of conversion. Well, so these are the requirements. Calculate the blending departments, the only department that we are concerned here with. The blending department equivalent units of production for materials and conversion in June. We're going to do that. How? You should be able to do it without looking at it. So the first requirement says, what is the equivalent units of production? So the formula is what's being transferred out plus what's in here. Just look around. So what's transferred? What's transferred out? How many units have been transferred out? 160,000 units. So 160,000 plus the 40 that we have are also ready as far as materials are concerned. So the equivalent units of production is 200,000 units for materials. And let's see how many units for conversion. That would be 160,000 conversion plus 40,000 times 25%. That's 10,000. So 170,000. 160 is completed and transferred, and 10,000 is the equivalent of what we have in stock. So we have the solution here too. This is the solution. I didn't just want to do it without the help of a paper. I'd like you to see requirement 1, 200,000 units is the answer, equivalent units for material, and 170 for conversion. Why 170? So 160 is common, but here is only 25%. So 40,000 times 25, so that's 10,000. So 160 plus 10 makes it 70,000. Then requirement 2 is what the unit cost. So unit cost is easy. Just add all the materials cost. Material cost to beginning inventory plus material cost added is the total material cost divided by 200,000. That's equivalent units. So materials cost is $80. $1.80. And then conversion cost, beginning work in process, conversion cost of what you have inherited plus what you have added divided by 170,000, your equivalent units. So that's your unit cost of conversion. Unit conversion cost is $55. All right, so that's requirement number 2. Once you have that, the next requirements are going to follow. So let's use that and find out what's the cost of the units transferred and what's the cost of units that we have. So that's requirement number 3. Cost of ending work in process. Basically, cost of what we have. What? 10,000 times dollar must be $80, because $80 was our materials cost. So 10,000 times dollar, 10,000 units are already, as far as materials are concerned, they're 100% complete. So 10,000 times 1.8, that's 18,000. You must have 18,000. Oh, sorry, not 10,000. That's 40,000. All 40 are already, as far as materials are concerned. So 40,000 times 1.8, that's our 72,000. And then 10,000 times $55. Here we can't use 40. It's going to be 10. So 10 times $55 is the cost of conversion of what's in ending inventory. So add the 2 up. That gives you the total cost of ending inventory, which is $87.5. And then what's being transferred, what's the cost of what's being transferred is 160,000 units have been transferred times $1.80 for material and $1.55 for conversion. This actually can be done in a much shortcut way. Just multiply 160 by the total of these two, total of the 2 unit costs, $80 and $55. And you still have the same answer. So that's 536,000. I hold it again. Watch it carefully. So this is actually part of the cost reconciliation report, because in the cost reconciliation report, the second part is nothing but this. The second part says that this is how we are accounting for it. This was the cost of what's being transferred, and this is the cost of what was still lying here. Okay. So finally, requirement number 5, which is the cost reconciliation report. Although I did only half of it because there is not much space left here. This is the beginning of the problem. These highlights of the problem that I haven't shown you, I think. What does it say? Work in process beginning 20,000, units added 180,000, so that makes it 200,000, and the degrees of completion here, and then what's being transferred is 160,000, and then we are still languishing with 40,000. All right, and then what's the resources added? Anyway, so this little bit, the bottom panel is the answer to requirement 5. Costs. You can see cost reconciliation. So cost to account for is the cost of beginning inventory, which was 25.2 and 24.8. Cost of beginning inventory was $50,000, and then cost added during the period is $623.5. By the way, the cost of the beginning inventory was already given in the question. Materials cost and conversion cost, 24.8 and 25.2. So total cost of beginning inventory was 50,000. The total resources added was 573.5. So the total cost that we need to account for is 623.5. 623.5. Now you account for it. How do you account for it? You show what's being transferred, what you transfer to the next department, and what you're still holding in your ending inventory. So that is precisely here. So remember the number here. The total amount that you need to account for is how much? 623.5, isn't it? $623,500. That's what you need to account for. And now add these two numbers. This is the value of what you have transferred, 536. So punch in enter 536,000 and add 87.5. 536,000 plus 87.5 is equal to, check if they add up to 623.5. And if they do, you fly. Okay, so this is probably my last presentation on process costing. Next one is going to be on we have done a review problem of CVP, so I don't think you need any more on CVP, but I may, because as I said, that everybody likes cost volume profit analysis. Everybody likes break-even points. I don't know why. Maybe the formulas are very user friendly, and I think that the reason why people don't like process costing in particular is that they can't make ready references, because we professors, we don't have the experience of working in factories, so it's very hard to visualize. Not that we have experience in retail or others, but I think we're more tuned or attuned to thinking like economists. So break-even point is a microeconomic concept. We have costs, unit costs, variable costs, fixed costs. So microeconomics, as being the overarching theme of managerial accounting or managerial economics, I think that's why we enjoy not just CVP. People enjoy the marginal costing as well, and relevant costs and special decisions. That's another popular chapter. All right. So I'll see you soon, and I hope you enjoyed my discussions on process costing. And if you need more, we're going to come back with more videos. But if you don't, then this would be probably the last. All right. Enjoy your day. Thank you. Bye-bye.